The snow came down in waves, like a curtain closing in on the world. Officer Jack Morgan had seen plenty of winters in his quiet mountain town, but tonight's storm was different. Wilder, heavier, cruel. His patrol car crept along the iced-over road as radio static filled the silence. Then, a call broke through, possible animal abandonment. 2 dogs, tied up, near the old ranger station. The voice cut off. Jack frowned. That station hadn't been used in years. Why would anyone be out there, let alone leave dogs in a storm like this? He hesitated, then turned off the main road, tires crunching against fresh snow. As he drove deeper into the woods, a strange feeling settled in his gut. Not fear exactly, but a weight. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He didn't know it yet, but that night would unravel more than just a rescue call. It would dig up ghosts, expose secrets, and pull him face to face with a past he'd tried to bury. Jack parked at the edge of a narrow trail, headlights swallowed by the snow-laden trees. He stepped out into the icy wind, breath fogging instantly. Every step crunched underfoot, the snow nearly up to his knees. The ranger station was at least a quarter-mile in. He gripped his flashlight, sweeping it side to side. Just then, a faint howl pierced the air, sharp, distant, and desperate. His pulse quickened. That was no coyote. That was a cry for help. He pushed forward, heart pounding with each step. The cold gnawed through his uniform, seeping into his bones. Snow clung to his hat and lashes. Then, he spotted it, a set of tracks veering off the path. Paw prints. 2 sets. Deep. Fresh. He followed them, the wind howling louder now, like it was warning him. Trees groaned, branches snapping overhead. But Jack didn't stop. He couldn't. He was getting closer. The howling was louder. The truth, whatever it was just beyond the bend. There they were, 2 German shepherds, tied tightly to a rusted metal post beside the crumbling remains of the old ranger station. Snow had buried most of their bodies, but their eyes. Those eyes glowed in the dark, full of pain and patience. One dog struggled to lift its head, the other lay curled, motionless except for the rise and fall of shallow breaths. Jack rushed forward, cursing under his breath. Their collars were thick and stiff with ice. He pulled out his pocketknife and cut the ropes. The dogs didn't bark or growl. They just stared at him, silent, trusting. That's when Jack noticed something strange. Both wore faded K9 vests. Old. Torn. But clearly police-issued. He gently touched the lettering. Unit K9-32. The number punched a hole through his memory. Where had he seen that before? The injured dog whimpered softly, bringing Jack back to the present. "I've got you," he whispered, not knowing how deep those words would go. As Jack crouched to examine their injuries, he felt it, eyes on his back. He stood abruptly, scanning the tree-line. Nothing moved, but something was out there. The wind carried an unnatural stillness, the kind that didn't belong to animals or storms. He gripped his flashlight tighter, its beams slicing through the snow. Just trees. Just shadows. And yet, he couldn't shake the chill racing down his spine. The dogs shifted, ears perked, alert now. One growled low in its throat. Jack turned slowly, senses prickling. Branches snapped in the distance. A shape flickered in the corner of his vision, then vanished. He raised his voice. "Who's there?" No answer. Only the wind. The dogs didn't bark, but their bodies were stiff, eyes fixed on the woods. Whatever had tied them here hadn't gone far. Jack stood, pulling the dogs gently toward the station's front steps. He didn't want to believe it, but something, or someone, was still watching from the dark. The ranger station creaked under the weight of years and snow. Jack pushed open the warped door, flashlight guiding him through the dust and silence. The dogs hesitated, then followed, tails low. Inside, the air was heavy, too cold, too still. Dust coated everything, except a path across the floor, leading to the back. Jack followed it. Then he saw the signs, papers scattered, a broken chair, blood smears half frozen on the wooden planks. His stomach dropped. This wasn't just abandonment. There had been a struggle. Near the fireplace, he spotted something even stranger, a trapdoor, slightly ajar but crusted with ice. One of the dogs whimpered, padding toward it and pawing at the edge. Jack knelt, trying to lift it, but it wouldn't budge. He reached for his radio. Dead. Static hissed back. No signal. No backup. Just him, the dogs, and a mystery that suddenly felt much bigger than a rescue call. The trapdoor seemed to breathe, waiting to be opened. Jack sat the dogs beside the fireplace, offering his coat as a blanket. As he examined their vests again, his fingers brushed something cold and hard beneath the matted fur. Carefully, he pulled it free, a metal badge tag, tarnished but intact. The name stamped on it made his blood freeze. E. Cole, K9 unit. Ethan Cole. Jack's old partner. Gone missing 2 years ago during a narcotics op in these very woods. Everyone thought he'd died chasing suspects into the storm. But the dogs, he remembered them. Titan and Bear. These were Ethan's K9s. How were they still alive? His breath caught. Could Ethan have been here? Recently. He looked toward the trapdoor again. The dogs stared at him silently, like they already knew what he was starting to realize. This wasn't just a random call. This was personal. And the truth wasn't buried in snow, it was buried beneath them, waiting. Waiting to be found after all this time. Memories surged like ice water. Jack remembered the night Ethan vanished, how the snow had been relentless, just like this storm. Ethan had chased a lead into the mountains. Jack had radioed him to wait for backup, but Ethan had insisted. "They're here. I'm going after them," he'd said. Then silence. 4 months, Jack blamed himself. Maybe if he'd followed him, maybe if he hadn't hesitated. The department had conducted searches. Nothing turned up, no body, no dogs, just a cold trail and colder whispers. Ethan's file was quietly closed. Jack never forgave himself. Now, sitting in this forgotten station, holding Ethan's badge and looking at his 2 surviving K9s, guilt wrapped around him like chains. The dogs had survived. But what about Ethan? And why had no one found this place before? He looked at the trapdoor again. Something was down there. Answers. Regret. And maybe, something even darker. Jack took a breath, knowing there was no turning back now. With a crowbar from the porch, Jack chipped away the ice sealing the trapdoor. It groaned open slowly, revealing a narrow wooden staircase descending into darkness. The dogs waited at the top, silent. Jack descended, flashlight trembling in his hand. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom, a dim, icy room stretched out. In the corner, remains. A uniform. Tattered. A name tag clung to it by threads. E. Cole. Jack's knees buckled. He crawled forward, trembling. Clutched in the skeletal fingers was a weather-worn journal. Jack opened it. Inside were pages of frantic handwriting, Ethan's final days. He'd been betrayed. A tip had come from inside the department. He was ambushed, shot, and left for dead. The dogs had stayed, never leaving his side. He'd written until the ink froze. If anyone finds this, know I wasn't wrong. I was silenced. Jack closed the book, tears burning his eyes. He had found Ethan. But not in the way he'd hoped. Jack climbed out of the cold cellar, holding Ethan's journal like it was a lifeline. The dogs pressed against him, sensing the weight of what he carried. By the fire's dim glow, he read more of Ethan's words, names, dates, evidence of corruption within the force. One name stood out, a superior officer who had helped bury the truth. Jack's jaw clenched. Ethan hadn't just died out here, he'd been silenced to protect dirty hands. The K9s had survived against all odds, guarding Ethan's body, waiting for justice. Jack stared at them, loyal, broken, but alive. "You waited all this time," he whispered. One licked his hand. The other rested its head on Ethan's coat. Jack dialed dispatch, voice tight with emotion. "Send an ambulance, and internal affairs." As the call ended, he stared out into the storm. It was no longer just snow falling. It was justice, long frozen, finally thawing. And Jack wouldn't let it be buried again. Days later, the truth unraveled like a storm. The journal exposed everything: names, lies, and betrayal. The officer responsible was arrested, the department rocked by scandal. Ethan was honored posthumously, his story no longer buried in the snow. The K9s, Titan and Bear, became national heroes. But to Jack, they were more than that. They were family. He adopted both, unable to let go of the last pieces of Ethan's legacy. Together, they visited Ethan's grave on a quiet, snowy morning. Jack knelt, brushing away the fresh snow from the headstone. "I found you," he whispered. "And I'm sorry I was late." The dogs lay beside him, calm, peaceful. As snowflakes drifted down like whispers from the past, Jack finally felt a sense of peace. In the end, love had endured. Loyalty had survived. And a truth long buried had finally come into the light. Sometimes, the cold reveals what the world tried to forget. And sometimes, it saves lives.